Hi, Ashley. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to do this interview with me. One of the most important focuses of my business, which you may know, Be Who You Want to Be, is around what insights and wisdom and advice I can offer parents that they can use to help empower and inspire their children to be who they want to be in life. Now, your business, Busy Moms Parenting, is a wonderful business, and it's dedicated to helping mothers achieve greater home, work, and life balance through self-love and empowerment. And you've also authored a wonderful book called The Happy Child's Guide, and you've got some wonderful insights and wisdom that I've been privy to, which I'm grateful for. And I'm just really thankful that I have this opportunity to share your knowledge and input with people in the Be Who You Want to Be community. So thank you for being here with me.
Thanks, Dr. Greg. I'm so happy to be on this call. I was really, really inspired when you contacted me, so
Great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I have a few questions that I'm going to ask you around some of the topics to do with parenting and helping kids with their mission and things like that. It's one of the elements that I'd really love to offer the community. So I'm going to start with question one. And what I'd like to know is, what's the single most important element that you believe in supporting and inspiring kids to be fulfilled, inspired, and purposeful about their lives?
Great question. I love this question. I feel that a main key to supporting and inspiring our children to live a purposeful life is to first support and inspire ourselves. So how can we teach our children to pursue their own mission and dreams if we're not living our own mission and dreams? And a recent study showed that 78% of people are in jobs that they really don't like or are unhappy with somehow. And so this means that many of us are not living inspired and fulfilled and purposeful lives on a daily basis. And so the question is, how can we bring more purpose and inspiration into our own lives every day, and what are the steps we can take to start this process? But bringing it back to your question, in regards to our children learn by example, and many of the personality nuances, habits, and patterns that we hold as adults, they get passed on to our children. So hence, some of us find ourselves saying, I sound just like my dad or my mom when I say that. Or, wow, what I just did was just like my mom. You know, I don't know if you found yourself saying that, but
Yeah, I have.
I know for myself, I do say that. So children will create beliefs from what they see and feel growing up. And these habits and patterns will slip into their subconscious and later potentially become autopilot for them. So for example, if a little girl sees mom saying to dad, I can't pay bills or do math well, you do it, honey, and saying this over and over again, the girl might create a belief that women aren't good at finances, or she in particular isn't good at finances. Or a son may be told that he's not trying hard enough each time he comes home with a less than wonderful grade at school, and he might create the belief that I'm not good enough.
Right.
Yeah, so this isn't always the case, but how we live our lives does create the foundation for our children, and this alone is very underrated in parenting. We look for all these techniques and tools, yet the most powerful tool is right under our noses, but this can be a real challenge to execute it. That's why I find with my work and with working with parents, you know, we can sometimes avoid this, being a parent myself as well. So it's easier for me to tell my child, I have a son, by the way, it's easier for me to tell my son to have patience than really have patience myself. So we need to model the behaviors that we'd like our children to have. And I have parents coming to me and wanting me to support them with their child in a certain behavior, such as, you know, a common one is tantrums or disrespect. And because our culture employs many authoritarian styles of parenting, such as yelling or screaming, manipulation, this is what many of us are using with our kids. And then we expect our kids to be well-behaved and kind when we're employing techniques that are potentially unsupportive. So kids are learning really by example in every minute.
Wow.
So going back to living a fulfilled life, our children will have the best chance at this by watching us take a stand in our own lives. And I do have a concern with saying this because Oftentimes parents will hear this and think, oh my gosh, I'm not doing any of these things. I don't live my inspirations. I'm so wrong. Bad me. My child doesn't have hope, or I can't do this. I can't be a model parent all the time, right?
Sure.
And I caution the listeners against feeling this way, because the truth is that none of us are perfect human beings or perfect parents. And we don't need to be. And this is really a key. And I talk about this in a lot of my other work. It's really okay to show our children that in life we make mistakes and we do the best we can, and we can adjust and realign. So the best gift you can give your child is really the gift of authenticity and vulnerability, in the sense of saying, yes, I made a mistake and I'm going to try this again, and that's okay for you to do the same, right? We don't have to be perfect.
Absolutely.
And I also don't want you to think that or the parents out there to think by starting to explore their own missions and purpose that they need to quit their job, say, and fly to Bali, something like that. Lasting, as an aside, I did something of the sorts, but lasting change comes from small and consistent steps every day. So this means exploring one thing at a time. Many of us don't even know what fulfills us and really makes us tick. So getting to know ourselves could really be the first step. And baby steps are the key here. Rome wasn't built in a day.
Absolutely.
So I don't want everyone to feel pressured to be and do everything at once. And so to really summarize, Greg, your question, I feel a very important element to inspiring our kids is bringing the focus back to ourselves and exploring our own mission and purpose in the world, and really leading by example. And I also want to stress that this isn't a perfect process, and we don't have to be the perfect parent and do it all. We can take baby steps and really move towards this.
Of course. Well, I can definitely relate to that, just with the work that I do sometimes with parents. Is usually when there's an issue that they perceive they're having with their child. I usually put it back on the parents, and I usually say to them, kids usually model themselves off you or off what they see, because they're still learning how to interact in the real world. They haven't had your level of experience in the real world yet. So if there's something going on with them, my question is, well, there might be something going on with you that you haven't worked through yet, and how about we work through that and see if it can help your child. So I relate to what you're saying, because I do a lot of this work myself with clients, and I've seen evidence of this with some of the other people that I've spoken to who do similar work to you with parenting, and they basically say the same thing, that exemplification really is the key. And when you take that accountability as a parent, even if you make those mistakes, because it's like you said, we're human beings, we're prone to not being perfect. We're both perfect and imperfect, so it's just part of who we are. But I guess the more we take that accountability as parents, it tends to really make that difference in the long run. So I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah. And if I may interject, Greg, sure. I would say that if I was going to walk away from this call at the end, or even through any of my work, and give parents one tool to work with, I would say this is the tool.
Yeah.
Because no matter what we're saying, or no matter what our values are, all of those will be represented through our actions and how we're being, right? So, and I think I'm going to touch on that a bit later. But yeah, so.
Cool. Excellent. Well, thank you for answering that question. It was a great answer.
Thank you.
Next question. What I'd like to know is, when kids are trying to uncover their mission in life, how can we support them in doing that, and doing the things that are true for them, that matter the most to them?
So once we start to explore our own flavors in our own life, so once this process is going, we can start to support our children in their own interests. So an important aspect of this is not trying to project our own desires and dreams onto our children. And I did a call last week, and we spent a good 30 minutes talking about this. It was a teen call. And we were talking about how projecting our dreams onto our teens can really create a wedge or crevice in our relationship with them. And this is a tough one, because many of us do it without even noticing. And I have a really great example of this in my own life. I put my son in baseball last year, and he really didn't like it. And I kept thinking to myself he'd eventually come around. but he really didn't like it. And one of his true interests, which he's been really telling me about for a year now, lies in games and technology. Computers. Now, my son goes to a Waldorf school, and we're really a minimal media home. So no TV, a video game once a week, that kind of thing. Right. So it really got to me that he was more interested in playing video games than doing baseball. So this really bothered me, and it forced me to take a deeper look at my own desires and my own projections and agendas in wanting him to play baseball. And I was doing this for a number of reasons. Number one, I wanted him to get the chance, sorry, going back to the baseball, a reason that I wanted him to get the chance to play baseball is that I wanted him to have the chance that I never had. I also wanted to get outside during the summer. I was also afraid that he wasn't getting enough exercise. And then lastly, I wanted to visit with my friends while he played baseball. Right. So when we want our children to do something really badly, we need to ask ourselves a few questions. And so why specifically do we want our child to do this? So for example, they can be fit, have fun, make friends, learn a new skill, whatever it is. Once we ask ourselves this, we can also ask if this is a great question. If there's another activity that our child could do that we don't like as much, but they were still having a great time and really loving it, and they actually preferred this other activity instead of the one of our choice, if we find the answers that we're really hooked on still them doing that first activity that we selected, then it really shows that there's some agenda there for ourselves. And we may have our child doing that activity because of us and not them. Did you have something to add to that? Sorry.
No, I completely agree with that. I mean, what I work on with people, particularly when it comes to parents, but I do work with relationships as well, is that we all have this very unique set of values, which is kind of what you're talking about. These beliefs or these interests or these ideals that we each individually have, they're very unique and specific to us as individuals. And often I find this with kids and parents, is that kids have very different values to their parents. And as you're saying with your son in the baseball, I find a lot of parents, not all parents, but a lot of parents tend to do this, not because they're doing anything wrong or right, it's just the way it is. They have these ideals or beliefs or I guess intentions that they would like their kids to follow through with. And a lot of the times it can conflict quite a lot with that child's value system. And as you kind of mentioned, if you allow your child to fulfill its own values and see how what they're doing is, I guess, fulfilling you or helping you within your own values, I guess, it becomes a service to you as much as it is to them, just like you were saying. I guess you just put it in a different way, but I do the exact same thing with parents as well. I work with them to help them link those things. So, in your case, your son liking video games and technology, and it's not so much a thing that you enjoy or you advocate so much because you want him to be more active and outdoorsy and all those sorts of things. What I would do would be to link what's most important to him to what's most important to you. So you can see just how important it is to your own values or to your own mission in life that he gets to do things that are valuable to him. So I completely relate to what you're saying.
Now, coming from the parent perspective here, how would you do that? Could you just give me an example? That'd be awesome.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So there's a process that I would go through. It's actually a DiMartini process. Dr. John DiMartini developed a values assessment tool. It's basically 12 questions. He added a 13th one in. They're very specific to what your life actually currently demonstrates. So if I was working with a parent who wasn't 100% sure of their child's value system, I would actually sit down with them and ask them the questions in relation to their child. So things like what are the 3 things that they spend their time on, that they choose to spend their time on? What are the 3 things that they spend their energy on? What are the 3 things that they want you to spend money on for them? What are the 3 things, or what 3 areas are they disciplined in, or reliable in, or organized in? And there's a range of other questions that you'd ask. And what that helps parents do is it helps to elicit a child's number 1 value, so the thing that's most important to them. Once they know that, once it's very clear and evident, and once we've done that same process with the parents, so they know what their own value system is, if let's say they don't, then it's a matter of just linking the 2 value systems together. and asking questions like, well, your son likes video games and this is why he likes them. So how does I guess him playing a video game, how does that serve you if, let's say, you are into personal development? How does that help you within your personal development journey? And the key is to find at least 20 to 50 links so the mind can see that everything's on the way, not in the way.
Wow, I love that.
And as soon as parents have that insight, instead of judging their children for what they're doing, they're actually grateful for their child's contribution by doing something within their own value system that's ultimately helping them as a parent grow in their own way and in their own mission. So that's just the process that I use.
Wow, I love that. I mean, new tools every day. I'm so glad to get a new tool for my toolbox. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
So back to, as I was saying, that this is an important thing to be aware of. And so we can ask ourselves as parents, why do we want our child to do that activity? And so what's the reason behind this? You know, maybe we always wanted to be a dancer or a baseball player, never really got the chance. And I was watching an interesting show the other day called Toddlers and Tiaras. Have you heard of it, Dr. Gray?
It sounds familiar, actually.
Yeah, so it's about, it's basically a show about putting young girls in beauty pageants. And this is a whole other topic that I'm not really aligned with, but but many of the mothers of the girls on the show were saying things like, wow, when I see my child on stage, it's like seeing myself, or I wish my parents would have done this for me. So you can also see that kids on the show are really trying hard to please their mom and be that star that their mom's looking for. And so a great exercise that we can take the time to do that I find helpful is to sit down for 10 minutes and ask ourselves, why do I want my child to do this activity? Because they'll learn a skill, because I want them to be successful, and we can dig deeply into this. And if we spend some time on this, the real reasons will start to surface. And I find awareness is often enough to really shift the energy around things.
Yep.
And in saying this, we also have to be willing to be really honest with ourselves, right? Because I know with myself, sometimes I'm really fooling myself about my own agendas and what's really going on for me. So this is a really helpful component. So a key component in supporting our child's life mission and purpose is really stepping back and looking to see what's true for us and what's true for our children. And this comes back to point one, the first point I made earlier, because so many of us are not really living in our truth. This is when we have the desire for our kids to do things that we never got a chance to do. So if more of us did what we loved, I think there would be less projecting onto our kids.
Absolutely.
And I really encourage all the parents listening to do this exercise above, because it's a real eye-opener.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so another way that we can support our children in uncovering their missions is by noticing what they're interested in and supporting them in that. And like you were saying about the value system, right? So going back to the video game example, I don't like video games myself, but I need to respect my son's interests. And I can do that by participating in what he's doing and making an effort to connect with him on that level.
Absolutely.
So sitting down with him and engaging with what he likes, even playing perhaps, I've started to do that. And so supporting our children's interests by being involved in the process. And we don't have to have the same interests as our children, but we do need to respect theirs, right? And children are highly sensitive and intuitive, and they can really feel when we're rejecting their interests and joys in life. And I noticed with my own son that when I embraced his interests, we became a lot closer, right? There's not that wedge in the way that keeps us separate.
Well,
does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. This is something I speak a lot about to all of my clients who are having challenges with people in their lives, anybody. And I say to them, as soon as you communicate in someone else's values, in terms of your own, but as soon as you communicate in someone else's values, so whatever's most important to them, naturally, because they feel supported in their value system by you, they just open up to you. And they want to connect with you because you're showing that you're caring about them. You're not careless, or you're not careful either. So you're not being too cautious, but you're not being careless and not caring. So as soon as you care for what's most important for someone else and can see how it serves you at the same time, you land up having this dialogue with people, whether it's like an energetic dialogue even, where it's just kind of under the surface, it's just this understanding. instead of alternating monologues, which is what tends to happen with people who don't understand each other's value systems as clearly. And that can happen quite a lot with parents and kids as well. So it's great that you're sharing this, because this is what I do as well. I just do it in my own way, and it completely resonates. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. And I think, that's pretty much all I have to say about that. I'm going to maybe touch on it a bit later on in the call as well.
Great.